Picture the most restless thing you know. It leaps from one branch to the next before it has even landed on the first. It wants everything and holds nothing. It cannot sit still for the length of a single breath. Now picture that this creature has learned to fly 108,000 miles in a single somersault, to change its shape 72 different ways, to storm the gates of heaven itself, and that it lives, right now, behind your eyes. 400 years ago, a Chinese novelist looked at the human mind and saw a monkey. Brilliant, powerful, ungovernable, and utterly exhausting to be. He wrote a 1,000-page adventure about a stone monkey who conquers heaven and cannot conquer himself. And for 4 centuries, readers have laughed at the demons and the magic and missed the quiet joke at the center of it all. The monkey is not just a character in the story. The monkey is you. Every time you open your phone to check one thing and surface 40 minutes later, not knowing where the time went, that is the monkey. Every time you know exactly what you should be doing and reach for the other thing instead, that is the monkey. This is a book about the oldest problem there is, a mind that will not obey the person who owns it, disguised brilliantly as the most beloved fantasy adventure in the Chinese language. Today we are going to take the disguise off, because underneath all the flying and the fighting, Journey to the West is something we need more than ever in the age of the infinite scroll. A 400-year-old field manual for taming your own restless mind. The book is Journey to the West, Shi Yanji, and by long tradition, its author is Wu Cheng'en, a minor scholar official of the Ming dynasty who most likely wrote it in the second half of the 16th century. We should be honest about 2 things at the start. First, the authorship is genuinely uncertain. The earliest printed editions carry no author's name at all, and Wu's is a scholarly best guess, not a signature. Second, and more important, only the thinnest thread of this story is history. There really was a monk. In the 7th century, a Tang dynasty pilgrim named Xuanzang made a real and astonishing journey on foot from China to India and back, 17 years, to bring home the Buddhist scriptures. That much is fact. Everything else, the shape-shifting monkey, the pig demon, the dragon horse, the 81 supernatural trials, is 1,000 years of legend, folktale, and opera piled on top of that one true journey, and finally shaped into a single, vast comic novel. So this is not a religious text and not a history. It is fiction, playful, satirical, sometimes laugh-out-loud funny, that uses the frame of a sacred pilgrimage to say something serious about the human interior. The genius of it is that Wu Cheng'en gives the pilgrim 4 companions, and the companions are not really separate people at all. They are the parts of one person. The pig is appetite, the monk is conscience, and the monkey, quick, proud, gifted, impossible. The monkey is the mind. Watch how the book names him over and over, and the whole design gives itself away. It calls him Xin Yuan, the mind monkey. The hero of this adventure is a metaphor wearing fur. Here is the whole book in one sentence. Journey to the West looks like a monster of the week adventure about walking to India. But it is really the story of one wild mind learning to govern itself. A stone monkey who begins by trying to conquer heaven and ends by no longer needing to be controlled at all. Which is the exact arc any of us has to walk to turn a scattered, greedy, distractible mind into a focused one. Every beat of the journey is a stage in that taming, and we will walk it in 5. First, Havoc in heaven, the unchecked ego, a mind so powerful and so unbounded that it tries to seize the throne of heaven itself. Second, pinned under the mountain, the crash that runaway appetite always earns in the end. Third, the golden band, the discovery that a chosen discipline, far from caging the mind, is the very thing that sets it free to move. Fourth, the 81 trials, the long, unglamorous work of meeting your own mind on the road, day after day, demon after demon. And fifth, Vulture Peak, mastery, the moment the restraint quietly falls away because it is no longer needed. Havoc, the mountain, the band, the trials, the peak. One monkey, 5 stages, and at the end of them, a mind that finally belongs to the person carrying it. Let us begin where the monkey begins, at the top of the world, with everything to lose. First, Havoc in heaven. Our hero is born from a stone egg on a mountaintop, a monkey with no parents and no limits, and he is magnificent. He masters the 72 transformations. He learns to leap 108,000 miles at a single bound. He storms the undersea palace of the Dragon King and walks off with a magic iron cudgel that once measured the depth of the oceans. He breaks into the underworld and strikes his own name out of the ledgers of death. Heaven, alarmed, tries to buy him off with a grand-sounding but empty title. And when he discovers the insult, he simply crowns himself Great Sage, Equal of Heaven. And at the peak of his rampage, he says the line that gives the whole ego away. Told that the throne of heaven belongs by right to the Jade Emperor, the monkey only scoffs. 皇帝轮流坐，明年到我家. The emperor's seat should be taken in turns. Next year, let it come to my house. Consider what kind of mind talks like that. Not an evil one, a gifted, thrilling, utterly unbounded one. A mind whose talents have outrun anything that could check them, so that no throne looks too high and no rule looks like it could possibly apply to him. This is the mind on a very good day, with no breaks. The version of you that is certain the ordinary limits are for other people. And here is the modern mirror. The monkey is exactly the mind the whole attention economy is built to feed. Endlessly capable, endlessly wanting more, sure that the next conquest will finally be the one that is enough. The takeaway is quiet but sharp. Raw power without restraint does not make you free. It just makes you loud, and it quietly writes a bill that always, eventually, comes due. Second, pinned under the mountain. The bill comes due almost at once, and it comes as a bet. The Buddha, entirely unbothered, holds out a hand and offers the monkey a wager. If you are truly so mighty, leap out of my palm and the throne is yours. The monkey laughs, 1 somersault, 108,000 miles, and lands, he thinks, at the pillars of the edge of the world, where he leaves a mark to prove he was there. He has never left the Buddha's hand. The whole cosmos, it turns out, fits inside an open palm he could not clear. And for his pride, the Buddha turns that hand into a mountain of 5 elements and pins the great sage beneath it for 500 years. There he lies, unable to move, fed molten copper and iron pellets, the most powerful creature in the world, flattened by the one thing his power could never overcome: itself. This is what rock bottom looks like when a mind runs with no limit and no off switch. Notice the shape of it, because it is the shape of every crash that unchecked appetite earns. It is not defeat by some stronger rival. It is the collapse that comes from within, the exhaustion at the end of wanting everything, the grey flatness after the endless scroll. The morning when all that capability has bought you is that you cannot get up. The monkey was not beaten. The monkey was buried by the natural consequences of a mind that would not stop. And the takeaway is the one the book will spend the rest of its length answering. If raw power cannot free this creature, and clearly it cannot, then what on earth can? Third, the golden band. And this is the hinge of the entire book. 500 years on, the pilgrim Xuanzang comes walking by, lifts the seal, and frees the monkey to be his disciple and bodyguard on the road to India. Freedom at last. But the monkey is still the monkey. The first time he is scolded, he throws a tantrum and bolts. So the compassionate bodhisattva gives the monk a gift, a gleaming golden band, a fillet that the monkey is tricked into slipping onto his own head and which can never come off. Whenever the mind runs wild, the master speaks a tightening spell, and the band closes in agony until the monkey stops. It sounds like a torture device. It is the opposite. Read how the book itself frames the chapter where this happens. Its title is Xin Yuan Gui Zheng, Liu Zuo Wu Teng. The mind monkey returns to the true path, and the 6 thieves vanish without a trace. The 6 thieves are the 6 senses, the little robbers of attention that were plundering him blind. And the moment a discipline is fixed to the mind, they lose their grip. That same chapter opens on a verse that states the book's whole thesis in 7 characters. Fu Ji Xin Xi Xin Ji Fu. The Buddha is this very mind, and this very mind is the Buddha. The point could not be plainer. The band is not a cage clamped on from outside. It is a chosen limit that finally lets a scattered mind hold a direction. And this is the great counterintuitive truth the age of infinite scroll has forgotten. Constraint is not the enemy of freedom. A deliberate limit, the closed door, the silenced phone, the single hard rule you accept, is the only thing that ever turns raw capability into actual moving freedom. Discipline is what lets the monkey finally walk somewhere. Fourth, the 81 trials. Now the real journey begins, and it is long, 14 years and 81 calamities, one monster after another, all the way to India. This is the stretch most retellings speed through as a highlight reel of cool fights, and in doing so, they miss the point entirely, because the demons on this road are not really external at all. Take the most famous episode, the White Bone Demon, who disguises herself 3 times as a harmless traveler. The monkey's fiery eyes see straight through her every time, and he strikes her down. But the gentle monk sees only a murdered innocent, refuses to believe his disciple, and banishes him. The hardest demon in that chapter is not the ghoul, it is the master's own suspicion and misjudgment, a demon of the mind that no cudgel can touch. Later comes the eeriest trial of all. A false monkey king appears, identical to the real one, and not even heaven can tell them apart, because he is the monkey's own divided mind. The second heart, born the moment Wukong was wronged and grew bitter. The book states the principle outright, in the mouth of the monk himself. Xin sheng, zhong zhong mo sheng, xin mie, zhong zhong mo mie. When the mind arises, every kind of demon arises. When the mind is stilled, every demon is stilled. The monsters of the Western Road are mostly grown at home, in the mind, and only then met on the road wearing faces. and this is why the trials cannot be skipped. Not one of the 81. There is no shortcut, no somersault past the slow work of meeting your own mind again and again until it finally steadies. Taming a monkey is not an event, it is a practice, and the practice is the whole point of the road. Fifth, Vulture Peak. After all 81 trials, the pilgrims finally climb the sacred mountain, reach the Buddha, and are given the true scriptures they crossed the world to find. And here, Cheng'en places the quietest, most beautiful detail in the entire book. The monkey, remembering how the golden band has tormented him for 14 years, asks the Buddha to have it removed at last. He reaches up to feel for it, and it is already gone. Nobody took it off. Somewhere on the long road, it simply dissolved, unnoticed, because a mind that has genuinely learned to govern itself no longer needs anything to govern it from the outside. That is what mastery actually looks like. Not the white-knuckle effort of the early days, the spell and the pain and the resistance, but a discipline so completely absorbed that it stops feeling like discipline at all and simply becomes who you are. The restraint you once needed falls away, not because you abandoned it, but because you became it. And there is a final turn, gentler still. The scriptures the pilgrims carry home turn out to matter less than the walking that earned them. The real transformation was never the cargo, it was the journey. The true scripture was never waiting at Vulture Peak. It was being written, character by character, in the monkey the whole way there. Tame the restless mind, the book says at last, and you do not merely arrive somewhere. You become someone who no longer needs to be held. The monkey, who once wanted to rule heaven, ends by ruling the only kingdom that was ever really his, himself. So what does all of it add up to? On the surface, Journey to the West is the great comic fantasy of the Chinese language. Gods and demons, magic weapons, a pig who talks, and a monkey who flies. But underneath the spectacle, Cheng'en built one clean, patient argument, and every stage of the road is there to prove it. That the central task of a human life is to govern your own mind, and that raw power is useless for the job. The monkey begins with every gift and no restraint, and all his talent buys him is 500 years crushed under a mountain. He is set free not by becoming more powerful, but by accepting a limit, the golden band, the chosen discipline that finally gives a wild mind a direction. He grows not through a single triumph, but through 81 ordinary trials. Meeting the demons his own mind keeps generating, until at last the restraint is so fully his own that it quietly disappears. Havoc, the mountain, the band, the trials, the peak. It is the complete curriculum for turning a scattered mind into a steady one, written 400 years before anyone had to worry about notifications. And that is why a Ming dynasty adventure about a magic monkey turns out to be one of the most practical books you can read right now. It saw, centuries early, that the deepest freedom is not the power to do anything you want. It is the harder, quieter power to do the one thing you have chosen, and to make your own mind come with you when you go. Here is the one thing to carry out of this book and into your week. You are the monkey, not as an insult, as a fact and a hopeful one. The mind that will not sit still, that wants the next thing and the next, that knows what it should be doing and reaches for the phone instead. That is not a flaw unique to you and your century. It is the oldest human problem there is, and 400 years ago, someone wrote 1,000 pages insisting it can be tamed. But notice how the taming actually works in the story, because it is the opposite of what we usually try. The monkey is not freed by force of will, by white-knuckling his way to more control. He is freed by a band, by one small accepted limit that does the holding for him. So this week, do not try to conquer your restless mind by sheer effort. That is just a monkey fighting the monkey, and the monkey always wins. Instead, give it a band. Choose one honest constraint, the phone in another room, a single hard start time, the one door you close, and let the limit carry the discipline so you do not have to carry it by raw strength every hour. That is the whole trick the book spent 1,000 pages on. Not more power over yourself, but one well-chosen fence, freely accepted, inside which your gifted, exhausting, magnificent mind can finally run in a straight line. Put on the band on purpose, and trust that if you walk far enough with it, there comes a day, somewhere down the road, when you reach up to feel for it, and find that it is already gone. Wu Cheng'en spends 1,000 comic, chaotic, wonderful pages making one serious case: that the wildest creature you will ever have to govern lives behind your own eyes, and that the way to tame it is not more power, but one freely chosen limit, walked out patiently over a long road until the limit becomes you. The monkey who tried to seize heaven found that the only throne worth having was the quiet mastery of himself, and so can you. If this walk through Journey to the West gave you something worth keeping, subscribe. A new classic every week, faithfully, in about 20 minutes. Next time we leave the mountains of the East for a gilded drawing room in London, and Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, the story of a beautiful young man who keeps a flawless face for the whole world, while the real record of who he is rots in a portrait hidden upstairs. The original selfie filter, painted more than a century before the phone. And tell me in the comments, what is your golden band? The one small limit that actually helps you focus? Or are you still, like the monkey at the start, sure you can win by sheer power alone? I read every reply.